You did? Oh, sorry. I guess I'll go on back right now. Yeah, sure. There's more coming.
Sit here? Yeah. You're welcome to. This is fine. I'm just going to take this. Those are fair. We can move one of these. Do you want to move in here? I come here? Yeah. Do you want me to move these? We could do that. We can make that work. Oh, just go watch up and stand, but that's they're reserved. All the seats up there are reserved.
You just don't need to worry about it. There's going to be too many people talking. Too many people going over. We're just helping the crowd. I'm not talking. It's okay. You don't need to feel any way, okay? Nobody needs to make you feel. Okay. I know it's just the way you feel. Don't feel bad about it. Hey, who should feel bad about it? Me. I'm the fly. That's why. No, nobody has it.
Hey, Kate?
Yeah.
Kate?
Okay. Hold on, Mom.
Come on.
She went around the corner. Go quick.
First seat.
When you and I are ready, no longer earthly bound, we'll travel through the crystal night, starbound. Heaven holds a mystery wrapped inside a sound. Through the eyes of endless time, starbound, you and I. A floating star is what we are, suspended in space. And outward bound's the only home we found to save the human race. Speed is now under captain. Kings that lost their crowns. Ocean is our master. Starbound. Starbound. Starbound.
Mark. And is this on? Everybody in the back, wave if you can't hear my big booming voice. And we need some more volume. Is this better? Okay, better? Thank you so much. Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Alina, for opening make sure you're awake, you know. My name is Charlie Chafer, and I want to welcome you to the 19th Celestis Memorial Spaceflight. Still can't hear? I tell you what, maybe I can do this. Is this better? Okay. Welcome to the 19th Memorial Spaceflight. Yes, I've been to all of them. Today is a little bit special for all of us at Celestis, and in many ways we're sharing your grief and your joy. Can you bring up Richard's picture? We've launched a number of friends on our various missions, but today's the first day when we're launching one of our former employees. Today we're honoring Richard Brosted. Richard joined our company right in 1997, right when we were launching the Founders Flight, the very first mission we ever did, and was with us until his passing last year. He put on a brave battle for a number of years. As I thought about what to say about Richard today, I think the thing I can say is that he guided us. He was our moral compass. He was our editor. He was everything to us. And I'm just happy that he's going to be on board with your loved ones to guide them to orbit on this very special occasion. And we know that's what Richard wants, and we thank you all for letting us open today's event with our tribute to Richard. We're flying this in his honor. Of course, we fly it in everybody's honor, but Richard's got a special place in our hearts, and we miss him. So with that, thank you very much. I'd like to turn over the podium to our president, Colby Youngblood, who's been with us, I don't know, over a year now? Yeah, over a year. And recruited him and tried to say, okay, we need another me because I'm not going to last forever, right? And he has exceeded our expectations. We're pleased to have him with us today. He's going to begin the process of sharing the stories of our participants today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll start the family story section. I'll call the first family up, and I'll let the next family who's going to be on deck know just to prepare. So as the first family, our first family is going to be the family for Ronald Keith Stuckey. If the family for Ronald Keith Stuckey could come forward. And then our next family following will be the family for Patricia Virginia Leiter. So as the first family gets closer to their 3-minute mark, the family for Patricia Virginia Leiter be prepared to come forward. And I'll just roll through this. I'll give you guys direction as we go through. I think we've explained just because of the amount of folks that we have today. Please try to keep your remarks between 2 to 3 minutes. We have one of our employees, Faith, which a lot of you folks have met Faith. When you get pretty close to that 3-minute mark, Faith is just going to stand up just to give you an idea of where you're at and get ready to wrap up. Okay?
Thought we'd be alphabetical, so I got to bring up my...
That's perfectly fine. Do you want to hold it?
I'll try.
Okay, I'll be right here to help.
Hi. Oh, I thought I could do this. My name's Sheila Stuckey, and I'm here to honor my brother Ronald Keith. This is his daughter Joyce, and it's very energetic. His very energetic grandsons. His daughter Jenny, his oldest daughter, couldn't be here. Carol, his wife, and many other family members. He was a devoted father, husband, and grandfather who passed away unexpectedly February 10th of 2020, one day shy of his birthday. Ron always said when he passed he wanted to be cremated and have his ashes scattered in his favorite places, in space and in the ocean. His family is following his wishes by sending him to this memorial space flight. And in addition, a portion of his ashes were scattered near the statue of Christ in Key Largo to celebrate his scuba passion. He was a kind and patient man. He had a good sense of humor. He was intelligent, articulate, methodical, and persistent. He was calm, even in times of crisis. He was a good and loving husband, always took care of his daughters, and took the time to teach and guide them. He passed on his love of sea and space exploration, influencing both of them for careers in math, science, and engineering. Joyce is a veterinarian, and his daughter is a chemical engineer. Ron loved his grandsons unconditionally, loved to teach them to build, make them things to play, and take them fishing for turtles. Today they found a critter in the front of the hotel, which was fun. He loved music, classical, the Beatles, ABBA, you name it, and he loved to scuba dive. He was a fan of space. He made it his mission to absorb as much knowledge as he could. And although he was humble and modest, his knowledge about space was admirable. He strived to find out the secrets, and he was an original Trekkie. He spent his free time being an amateur radio enthusiast until he became a silent key, February 10th of 2020. He was so passionate about it. He got my dad to be a radio operator, my mother, his 2 daughters, and he even tried to get me to be one. He gave me the book to take my test. I gave him a quilt book. I never became an amateur operator, and he never became a quilter. I can tell you with certainty he would be thrilled today, and I wish him safe travels.
Thank you. The family of Patricia Virginia Leiter, followed by the family of Dave Barrett. How you doing? Good to see you.
Yes.
Is this your son?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Good to meet you.
Hello, everybody. This is the core family of Patricia Virginia Leiter, loving wife and mother. It's my son, Brian. We're both actually work in the space industry, so this was almost a given, if anything can be. We all had crushes on someone in our mostly misspent youth. These were loves that never developed that much. Somebody bailed out. But other fully developed loves have also died, even though no human died in conjunction with the love that went away. Accepting this independence, it also stands to reason that love may live on independent of human life, which is why we are here today, to honor and share that love that persists like space does. The analogy is, whatever harm or lack of development we do to the surface of the earth, these malfunctions are independent of most of space. Our chosen habitation is space for our enduring love. Tricia Leiter, my dear wife, and my son Brian's dear mother, was always enraptured by the dual concepts of heaven and space. Space being proximate to heaven in her mind. Today is a wish come true for Patricia, as is Brian's space career, also a fulfillment for her. Space and its people have always been there for her and shall continue to be there for her, as they were always there for her on the surface. Thank you, family of Patricia Virginia Leiter.
Well done. The family for Dave Barrett, followed by the family of Peter Frederick Schmidt.
Hi, my name is Joyce Barrett, and this is my son Luke Barrett, and my husband and his dad Dave Barrett is who we are sending into space today. This voyage will mean so much to Dave, as he always wanted to be an astronaut, but he wore glasses, and years ago that was a disqualification. So now he goes into space in a different way. Many kids had posters of rock stars on their walls when they were young. Dave had a poster of John Glenn. As a journalist for CBS News, he covered many launches done by NASA, and I'm sure he wished he could be reporting from space. If you heard his reports, he sounded like a kid in a candy store. He was always thrilled to be part of the process. He even applied for the Journalist in Space program, which was disbanded due to the very sad Challenger accident. At present, Dave is orbiting the Earth on the recent Horizon flight of Celestis, though we watched it from the launch from our computers due to COVID restrictions. I often track the Horizon flight on the Celestis site, and when it shows him flying overhead, I go out in my yard and I yell hello up to the sky. We are glad to be here in person this time, and this is the best gift we can give him now. Have a good trip, Dave/Pop. Bye for now. We love you.
The family for Peter Frederick Schmidt, followed by the family for Robert Weaver.
I want to thank Peter's wife, Megan, and my son, Joshua, for coming here, and for Megan for helping me with this, and for both their support. Joshua's Peter's younger brother, and then his older brother, Andrew, couldn't attend. He was born in 1985.
A little bit in the mic. I can't hear you.
Okay. He was born in 1985, and he's the second of three sons, as you already noticed, Toledo. We moved from there to New Jersey when he was 7, and from an early age, he was very adventurous, and he had a passion for flying and aircraft. One of the first times that he enjoyed aircraft firsthand was in the side of in the front seat with a fly-in for a fishing trip in northern Ontario. And I just loved the look on his face of awe, you know. He attended space camp in Florida with his father for his 10th birthday. He took flying lessons when he was in high school. Pretty fortunate kid, right? And he was he got a private pilot's license soon after. At 14, talk about adventure, I got the benefit of it. He decided he wanted to do scuba dive, and this old mother said, yes, you may do it, but I want to go with you and make sure you're safe, so I have to learn. So besides embarrassing him, it was a great experience to spend the time with him, and we've always had that in common. He was a manager for Certified Flyers in Morristown, New Jersey, and he met his future boss there. They called him Marty McFly. Also, I learned about the many meaningful relationships he had through work with his company, a digital fantasy. It was called Fantasy in New York City. I learned about that at his celebration of life. He had a love for travel. He went scuba diving in the Gulf of Thailand, many things like that. Spartan races, and he always pointed his finger to heaven when he was finishing. He was thankful for that. He had kind of towards the end, age of 31, he lost his father, my late husband. I was as an accident, due to an accident, and immediately Peter was the one out of the three to step forward to pray over his father. And I thought, whoa. So, sometimes it's in there, but you don't know, right? What's in. So, 14 months later, or excuse me, 6 weeks later, he had to undergo a 15-and-a-half-hour surgery for malignancy that left him with some challenges. And thankfully, he was declared cancer-free after chemo radiation. But then 14 months later, he had some cardiac issues. We were well controlled. And he was working and having an active and productive life. And they got married in July of 2019. And then November 2021, he went in for a procedure that was supposed to be overnight stay. And it ended up he was in cardiac ICU for 4 months. But it was in New York City. And then he passed on February 28th. But the last month was delightful because he was awake and oriented. He wasn't under sedation. And once again, he was planning for more adventures with the other son that's not here when he was fully recovered, So we had high hopes. And then, so let's see. Prior to being critically ill, Peter showed Megan the Celestis website and shared that he would like to have that be part of his life, sharing the rocket launch adventure. And I am so thankful that Peter could get what he asked for. And this amazing experience, and that we can honor his wishes. And I can only say that it truly was a great gift from God, and that he's going to be very missed. He is very missed, and hope we know we'll see him someday soon in the heavens. Thank you.
The family for Robert Weaver, followed by the family for Carl and Lindgren. Hi.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Terry Weaver, and when I met my husband in the year 1999, he informed me that he had bought into a company called Celestis, and he was all excited about it. He was a Trekkie, and he also completed 40 years in the United States Air Force. When he aged out, he worked for the DoD as a civilian in the same job. He loved everything that flew, and his dream was always to go to outer space. I'm here today to fulfill his dream, and I have to tell you, I'm so thrilled he is traveling with such wonderful people. That really makes my heart feel better. And I'm very thankful to be here and fulfill his dream. And thank you for giving me your time.
The family for Carl N. Lindgren, followed by the family of Donna L. Crooker. Okay. The family for Donna L. Crooker.
Hey, good afternoon. My name's Keith, and this is my sister Amanda. We're the son and daughter of Donna Crooker, who's participating in the flight today. Our mother Donna came to us in this world in 1945 at the height of World War II, a period where our civilization here on Earth was in constant flux, ever-changing, ever-moving, going from triumphant heights to murky depths. And I could stand here and talk about how she was the oldest daughter of 3, along with her sisters Pat and Karen, and how they traveled a lot in their youth, and how their parents, Roy and Lillian, raised them to be amazingly talented and intelligent young women. However, these earthly attributes aren't the reason we're here. The reason we're here is to give a farewell to our loved ones in a way that talks to the inner soul and fire that made them who they are. At her core, Donna was a fantastic artist. She had this mysterious ability to bring color and earthly form together to make it more vibrant and inviting to everybody who saw it. She had a knack for seeing the beauty in the small pieces of the universe and bringing them together into an art form that was so much better than when they stood alone. So, at her hospice bed 2 years ago, when she asked about the possibility of having her ashes fly into space, a part of me wondered why. How could someone who hadn't previously shown any interest with anything associated with space flight, science, or even general stargazing want to have space be her final resting place? It took me these past few months to figure out why, and she was, in her final days, instinctually tracing back the steps of where she came from. As an artist, Donna was already in touch with that part of the human spirit that looked to the stars, the universe, and what makes us who we are. Her artistic mind was already familiar with the concept about the cosmos, first voiced by astronomer Carl Sagan decades ago, that the beauty of a living thing is not the atoms that go into it, but the way those atoms are put together. So it was only natural for Donna to think of space as her final resting place because she knew she was going home. She was simply following what Dr. Sagan told us about the cosmos, that some part of our being knows that the cosmos is where we came from, and that we long to return, and we can because the cosmos is also within us, that we're made of star stuff, and that our very existence is a way for the cosmos to know itself. So today, Donna makes that journey home, a journey that the rest of us will take ourselves someday. Today, as with the day of her birth, she leaves behind an earth that is still in constant flux, ever-changing, ever-moving, choosing during her last days to slip these surly bonds of earth and trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space. Godspeed, Mom, we love you.
The family for Graciela Chapa, followed by the family for Robert Grant Phillips. And while I wait for the family of Graciela Chapa to come forward, we know it's starting to get a little hot in the tent. We do have cold water in bottles and cups. If you want to if you're getting too hot and you need a drink, feel free just to slip out that side door and just grab some water. Hi, how you doing?
Good.
All right.
Thank you.
You gonna be speaking?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Hello, we're the family of Graciela Chapa. She's my wife. I'm Horatio Rodriguez. My wife was very, very good reader and stuff, constantly read anything, everything, especially having to do with astronomy, space, and everything. She was adamant about that. Big Trekkie fan and everything, but she always wanted to go up into space and everything. She was also very energetic, always was into crafts, doing things, exploring things, and things like that. So she was really, really active on a lot of forefronts and stuff. Our family here is here to honor her in her last wish to go on up and do her final journey and everything. And I just wanted to say we miss you and we love you and hope you enjoy the journey. Thank you.
The family for Robert Grant Phillips.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Oh, that's a lot of sunlight. We are the family of Robert Grant Phillips, here to honor and remember him. Robert was a loving husband to me, stepfather to Helena and Stephen, and brother of Jeanette. I'm Laura. This is Jeanette, Helena, and Stephen. We lost our Robert August 4, 2021, after a long battle with leukemia. But Robert was a fighter, and for 17 months to bone marrow transplant, he never gave up. Eventually, complications from the bone marrow transplant is what took Robert from us. But we just want to let everybody know that he kicked cancer's butt. He did. He beat the leukemia. It was the complications from the bone marrow transplant that took him. Robert was a career NASA engineer for 33 years of his life. He loved things all space and science fiction. When he was a kid, it was all about becoming an astronaut, but because he was colorblind, he could not be a pilot at the time. So Robert did it the other way. It didn't deter him. Instead, he came to Houston. He originally grew up in Oregon, a little tiny town called North Albany. That's right? I always forget those names because I'm a Houston gal. So he worked basically, he went to Rice University, did his undergraduate and his graduate at Rice University, and then in 1987 started working at NASA. And he built the code. He was a software engineer, and he did the coding for the training and simulations that astronauts would practice on so that they could do their journeys and get there safely, and they could do their job and everything go right. Robert didn't just love space and science fiction. He loved reading and all things comics books, graphic novels, music, played multiple musical instruments, including saxophone, the oboe, the piano, the didgeridoo. I still have it. He loved scuba diving, and he loved being a dungeon master in Dungeons and Dragons games. He even wrote software and uploaded it on the internet. It's a free code out there if anyone wants to use it. He had an incredibly smart and beautiful mind, a sublime sense of humor, and the ability to put anyone at ease with a witty joke when the conversation died in a crowded group. Our kids want to say that their best memories of him was his patience and kindness with them, especially when they asked him the same question a million times, because they couldn't remember that they asked him the question before. And it was usually related to space stuff. Robert's wishes were to be cremated, and we spread them wherever we thought was important to us. He said, "This is for you, not for me. I'll be gone. I won't be there anymore. So this is a celebration of how you want us, how we wanted to honor him." After he passed away, I found out that people's ashes could be launched in space. And I said, you know what? I called up my sister, Jeanette. We talked about it, and we thought this was the most fitting way to honor his memory. Because as a little boy, he watched the first man step foot on the moon. He was 6 years old, and he says, "That's what I want to do." Well, he's not going to the moon, but he is going to circle an Earth orbit, because all of the missions that he worked on were space station and international space station and the shuttle missions, and then Orion before he eventually passed. And that's what we wanted to know. He wanted to be an astronaut, and now he's going to be a rocket man. Thank you.
Thank you. was excellent. Thank you. The family for Willie S. Beckham Jr. The family for Willie S. Beckham Jr. So the next family will be speaking for Willie S. Beckham Jr. Oh, she passed. Got it. Okay. The family for Robert Kent. And following the Robert Kent family will be the Robert W. Stanley family.
Hi, my name is Nancy Kent, and this is my son, Jeffrey. We have two other children that could not attend today. We are here to honor my husband and their father, Bob Kent. I would like to tell a little story why we are here today. Back in the 80s, new into the relationship with my husband, we were sitting around just chit-chatting and what we wanted to do with our remains and just talking about lifelong plans. And he had such a quick, witty, dry sense of humor. He wanted to be cremated, and what else would you do with ashes but put it in an ashtray? And after that being said, he said, wouldn't it be cool to be shot up into space? And back in, say, 85, we didn't know that was an option. Well, let me fast forward to 2 houses, 3 kids, and a lifetime of happiness. When he was home on a hospice in 2015, he also mentioned it to our son, Jeffrey. How wouldn't it be neat if ashes could be shot up into space, not knowing it had been done for a few decades now? Well, here we are today, and I feel so honored that we could do this for him. This is not the last way we will honor him. He'll be honored until we are no longer around. His legacy will continue to live on. Yeah, unfortunately, he missed 2 sons' weddings and the birth of 5 grandchildren. But his legacy will be there, and he is missed every day and thought of every day. Thank you for allowing this, the honor to do this for my husband, Bob, and Jeff's dad. Thank you so much for having us.
The family for Robert W. Stanley, followed by the family for Natercia Luisa Costa Cantules.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eileen, and I'm here on behalf of my brother, Robert Stanley. You might have noticed his picture there with the hair flying up like this. He was a lifetime and professional skydiver. But actually, this moment is a tribute to all 3 of my brothers. My brother Rick, who was Rob's twin, died in 2005 in a skydiving accident. My brother Joe died about 10 years later in a glider accident. And then Rob died in 2019. He was in China at the time, skydiving and working professionally there. He worked all over the world. In Cross Keys in New Jersey, he was in Dallas, Texas, he was in Florida for a long time, in Australia, South Africa, all over the world. And that's where his family is. They're all around the world. One of the things I remember as a child growing up is we had a farm, and we used to jump off the rafters. And I think that's one thing that started these guys jumping out of planes. The other thing we did was we would sit out at nighttime, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and watch the stars. And my dad would teach us about Orion and Cassiopeia and the planets. And I think that was a a time that started our love of the sky for all of us. Rob had a telescope which he took with him. He took it to Thailand even. So Rob was a world traveler. Like I said, he had family all around the world. One of his places that he spent a long time was Cross Keys, New Jersey. And his girlfriend at the time, I asked her to give me a few words to sort of commemorate Rob. And this is what she had to say. Most people hate rainy days, but they were our favorite because how we used the extra time, because you can't skydive in the rain. He taught me inspiration, exploration, pure love, and motivation. So excited that you get to see the stars. Rob was really the best human I'll ever meet. And there's so many people around the world that agree with that. And it's crazy because they're all around the world. Blue skies, Rob. Thank you.
The family for Patricia, Luisa, Costa, Cantules, followed by the family of Lieutenant Rhiannon Ross.
Hi, everybody. My name is Laura Cantules. I'm here with my family, my dad Charlie, my brother James, his partner Amy, and we're here all the way from Salem, Massachusetts, so it was quite a little trip across country for us to be here. It's been very wonderful to hear such nice stories of all your loved ones, and I would now like to take a moment to tell you about my mother, Luisa, who we lost about 3 years ago in 2020. Natercia Luisa Costa Cantules was born in the small town of Villafranca do Campo on the island of São Miguel in the Azores. She was the eldest of 5 children, and she came here to the United States with her family when she was 8 years old. Despite the hardships and obstacles of settling into a new country, she worked hard to learn English and excelled at her studies. She eventually went on to continue her education at Harvard University, and she graduated cum laude with a degree in biology. And following her undergrad, she attended NYU School of Medicine to earn her doctorate. She began her professional career that same year and became a founding partner of Salem Women's Health Associates and was also elected a fellow of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Over the years, she worked as an OBGYN for many different hospitals and health centers and eventually opened up her own private practice and worked there for over 10 years. Over the course of her career, my mom helped countless patients, brought nearly 4,000 babies into the world, and was a very well-respected member of the medical and local communities. Many loyal patients followed her to wherever her new work carried her because she was the best at what she did, and she treated everyone with the utmost compassion and the highest quality of care. My mom enjoyed many hobbies, including travel, gardening, and music. She especially loved playing the piano, knitting, and cross-stitch, decorating for the holidays, watching cooking shows, and Christmas. Her favorite places to visit were Disney World, Rockport, Mass., and anywhere with an ocean view. Luisa, my mom, never met a cup of coffee or a piece of chocolate that she didn't like, and she could often be found indulging in her favorite guilty pleasure pastime, making shopping runs for clearance steals at Target. She was the kind of person who always wanted to read a book's ending first because she didn't want to waste her time reading a story she didn't like the outcome of, no matter how much it annoyed her literature-savvy family. She believed there was no such thing as a truly empty tank of gas, despite the frequent suggestions of the low fuel light. And she stranded her little blue Ford Escape on many a hill trying to prove that fact. She was stubborn, strong-willed, and independent, and if someone wasn't doing something the way she knew it should be done, she wouldn't hesitate to let them know. But she was also a very sensitive and tender soul who accepted strangers into her home as family and strove to make all feel comfortable and welcome there. She was a caring mother who always knew when to be supportive and understanding, and also when to say what needed to be heard, even if it hurt. She was a loving wife who would roll her eyes and shake her head whenever my dad would call her the most beautiful woman in the world, but she secretly smiled every time anyway. She was a wonderful person who improved the lives of everyone she came into contact with, and she never failed to lend a helping hand and dole out sage advice to anyone in need. Mom was known as much for her scalding sense of humor and no-nonsense attitude as for her natural leadership skills and warm bedside manner. She enjoyed her work and met many lovely people whom she cherished as friends and colleagues, and although she tended to see the glass as half empty rather than half full, her presence in the lives of those who knew her certainly filled their glasses to the brim. Mom had always wanted to be an astronaut, but unfortunately could not pursue that dream due to her poor eyesight. She wished to be cremated, and she said she'd haunt us forever if we put her in the ground. And she loves space and the thought of exploring the unknown, which is the inspiration behind the quote she chose to have inscribed on her capsule, in ignotis, or into the unknown. When we first informed her of our somewhat crazy notion of sending her ashes up into space to float around for a while before returning to the atmosphere in a blaze of light like a shooting star, she said, "Yeah, that sounds good." And she was truly overjoyed for the first time in months. We joked about being able to tell people that we knew she was still with us. In spirit? No, right overhead. But all joking aside, it was really clear that this final adventure would bring her a great deal of happiness, and we knew this was the best way we could honor her memory while also allowing her one last chance to do something she'd always really dreamed of doing. We really hope she enjoys her trip among all you fine people who have lost your loved ones and are all going to be going up here on this journey together. And we know that she'll be watching over us from the great beyond.
The family for Lieutenant Rhiannon Ross.
Wow, those are incredible stories, aren't they? Good afternoon. I am Lieutenant Rhiannon Ross's mother. I'm honored to briefly share her story with you all today. Beginning as a young girl, Rhiannon was fascinated with the stars, the mysteries of the cosmos, and dreamed about space travel. Her first flight experience was a high school aviation camp at Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which happens also to be where her sister Jacqueline attended college. And her other sister, Lydia, is also not able to be here today because they're following their dreams, which is what Rhiannon would have wanted them to be doing right now. Rhiannon was accepted into the U.S. Navy's ROTC program at the University of Michigan. Immediately following graduation, she commissioned as an officer and earned her first selection choice of going to Navy flight school, a fulfillment of her dream to learn how to fly, earning her wings in 2014. She was awarded the Captain Michael Horrocks Leadership Award for honor, integrity, dedication, and courage. Captain Michael Horrocks, also a former VT-2 instructor pilot, was the first officer on board the United Airlines Flight 175 that was hijacked and flown into the World Trade Center's South Tower on September 11th. Rhiannon carried on Captain Horrocks' distinguished legacy of leadership. She flew 634 sorties across the Persian Gulf. She was awarded the Navy Air Medal for her heroic Sierra 60 helicopter air skills, saving the lives of 17 servicemen from perishing in the Persian Gulf. Her superior instructional acumen, according to the Navy, was instrumental in earning her squadron, VT-2, the top squadron aviator award of all 17 Chief of Naval Air Squadrons. Loved and highly regarded by hundreds of her squadron pilots, student pilots, and airmen from around the world in the U.S. Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and from our allied countries as an outstanding officer, aviator, and mentor. Her tour of duty culminated in 8 years of faithful and honorable service to our nation on October 23rd, 2020, when Lieutenant Ross and her student, Lieutenant Morgan Garrett, flew their last flight. Rhiannon's ultimate sacrifice in the service of our nation has forever changed our identity from a Blue Star family to a Gold Star family. It is my honor to now introduce you to a Gold Star father, Rhiannon's dad, Ralph Ross.
Thank you. Rhiannon chose to gift herself on her 30th birthday with a skydiving experience. It was her first skydiving experience, and her silly laughing grin as she soared wingless through the atmosphere gave away her sheer joy of being in her favorite element. We know today that she is grinning and laughing with the same joy as we witness her dream to go to space. Her dream is being realized through the staff and leaders here at Celestis, as well as the people she served with and protected in this country. To quote the 23rd Excelsior's flight mission, it represents the exuberance of reaching outward,
beyond to lofty locales, and qualities that help define those on board, as well as the goal of the mission. It's a most fitting tribute for Rhiannon, who loved to reach for the stars. We're also grateful to her husband, U.S. Navy pilot Lieutenant Commander Jason McCabe, for gifting Rhiannon and her family with this spaceflight memorial in her honor. He was not able to be with us today, but allow me to introduce you to Captain John Viscup. He's a friend, very close friend of Rhiannon's, and a squadron mate of hers, and he'll say a few words.
I'll keep this pretty short because I'm pretty sure somebody's about to stand up. This is a quick letter to Rhiannon that I usually write to her often. I go, Rhiannon, tonight you'll realize your dream to reach the stars. I remember the day you shared your dreams of reaching space, and of course, I had questions. I asked you how a Navy helicopter pilot who was comfortable flying 10 feet off the ground at 100 knots with a degree in Middle Eastern history was going to strap herself to a rocket with a bunch of engineers and physicists, but you just smiled and said, I'll figure it out. Well, here we are, and my doubts are extinguished. In just 3 short years of knowing you, I bore witness to your leading and training of the next generation of naval aviators. Your talents as a pilot were a delight to behold. Your compassion and devotion to your students, inspiring, and your passion for flying and teaching was absolutely magnetic. When I look at you, Rhiannon, like so many others, I see the leader and human I want to be. Your servant heart has reached so many in such a short life, and we are all enriched and blessed because of you. Some people dream of meeting their heroes in their lifetime. I have the unique privilege of my hero being my very best friend, and now I get to watch you realize your dream in colors that don't exist and music we cannot hear. You will always be there.
Good job, Tony. The family for Michael J. Beckett, followed by the family of Jameson Jamie Ian Miles.
Good afternoon. I am Christy Beckett. My husband, Michael Beckett, is on this flight. He had a very adventurous spirit and rarely let anything stop him from doing what he wanted to do in life. He grew up around aviation. At the age of 5, he rode his tricycle 3 miles to an airport where his dad worked as an aircraft mechanic. He was quite proud of that and told the tale often. At age 20, he got his private pilot's license and fell in love with flight. After that, he took up hang gliding and often traveled to Colorado and California with a club. However, one warm day in February, he and others went soaring above the Les Hills in western Iowa in the Missouri River Valley. That day, Mike crashed his hang glider and was paralyzed from the chest down due to a spinal cord injury. He was 24. He had been a mechanical technician but could no longer work in that field, so he went back to college and got a bachelor's degree in structural engineering. He worked for 30 years for the Army Corps of Engineers in the military branch. Post 9/11, he spent the last 10 years working in the Predictive Design Center, designing buildings to be more resistant to blasts and explosions. Mike continued to love flight and, of course, would not stay away from it. He went flying with a friend in his private plane from time to time, and he engaged in many other activities, including sailing his own catamaran on the lake where he grew up and tandem skydiving. We lived in Germany for a few years, and we traveled all over Europe and the Middle East. While living in Germany, he became acquainted with a Royal Air Force gliding club, and he was able to go up several times as a passenger. He also spent hours watching the stars with his telescope, and one thing he always talked about, he was always believed in the possibility of life on other planets. Mike also loves all kinds of sci-fi and was a devoted Doctor Who fan. He was a Trekkie from day one and wanted to be a Starfleet commander. Then Star Wars came along. He was certain he would make an excellent Jedi Knight. Well, that remains to be seen. We bought a motorhome when he retired early, and he and a friend adapted it so he could drive. Mike loved to travel, and over 5 years we saw most of the U.S. His favorite place, though, was Roswell, New Mexico. He wanted to stay there longer than we did. And he had just had a blast there and felt right at home. Mike always wanted to go into space, and my son and I knew we had to do this for him. So Mike, we'll be watching you. Enjoy the ride and never forget the truth is out there. So in the words of Buzz Lightyear, to infinity and beyond.
The family for Jameson, Jamie, Ian, Miles.
Hi, my name is Glenda. I'm Jamie's mom, and I'm representing the beloved family of Jamie from Ohio and all over the United States. If Jamie were here today, you would be astonished by his fascinating ability to know the local affiliate, NBC station, and the peacock logo from each one of your hometowns. 100% accuracy, no joke. But first, he would proudly and properly introduce himself in his Star Trek uniform because he was always suited up for duty. I'm so happy we have all these Trekkies here today. He would first ask you each for your hometown, and then he would proceed to amaze you with all of the dazzling bird details. This was just one of his many talents and gifts. At age 10, he taught himself the Greek language, then Russian, then Spanish. After he graduated from high school, he took German and aced it with straight A's just for fun. You can imagine how grateful I was when Google Translate came out because we had all kinds of dictionaries around the house so I could learn how to talk with him. He was also very talented with Star Trek languages and wrote and translated hundreds of books and scripts in Klingon, Romulan, and Vulcan. Some of my sweetest treasures are countless messages of Kamushka, which is Klingon for I unhate you, which means I love you. I also taught him how to cuss in Star Trek to keep him from getting in too much trouble because no one ever knew what he was saying. He lived for Star Trek conventions where he could travel and fully connect with people, which he called his tribe, buy serious amounts of swag and take pictures of his adventures and post all around the sanctuary of his room. He also taught himself how to play guitar, piano, synthesizer, and drums. His favorite decade was the 90s, where he was a pop music trivia expert, and he could make a DJ wish they kept their favorite day job because he schooled them on songs, artists, and instruments. I have a lifetime of memories inside my heart about this glorious boy who chose me as his mom. I will spend the rest of my days telling his life story. All of this wonderful stuff wasn't supposed to happen, so said a line of doctors present at his birth in 1979. According to them, he was going to be deaf and dumb and die before he was a year old. Lucky for Jamie, he was surrounded by generational resilience, and we rose to the challenge. He had disabilities, but society cared more about them than we did. He was seen, valued, and made an impact on so many people for 42 years. He had big plans that were cruelly taken away last year by an unexpected cardiac arrest and a noxic brain injury. He was a kind man who didn't subscribe to the notions of society's superficial values. As a devout Trekkie, we spent countless time gallivanting around town, both of us suited up in Trek uniforms, spreading joyful wishes of live long and prosper. There are many beautiful meanings of this symbolic hand gesture, but it mostly means to wish others to flourish, to bloom, thrive, and do well. He adored sharing this with others and had the most genuine giggle when people genuinely returned it in earnest. He taught me and others how to live entirely in the moment. Yesterday meant going back to time to thrust nostalgia. Yesterday was mysterious and futuristic. Today was entirely felt in the present. He was the stars in my universe. He was spectacular here, and then suddenly he wasn't. His life was complex and remarkable. Some days I think it's because of his achievements were so unexplainable, he was a living wonder. Some days I think it was because his unique perceptions, and other days I believe it was because he was otherworldly. Perhaps he existed in the threshold of both. He saw the magic in things, and because of that, so did I. Perhaps some of you recall Charles telling us that science is hard in our Facebook conversations. I couldn't agree more. Yes, space is hard, and so are a lot of other things. Loving one another is hard, caregiving is hard, parenting is hard, living is hard. Almost everything worth doing is hard. All of these are hard and also astonishing, awesome, unexplainable, otherworldly, and complex, and I am here for it. My family and I are devastated for the reason that Jamie is on this Excelsior flight, but we are also delighted to share that he would absolutely freaking love this big blast off having tonight. He would totally love it. I look around at all the space that we're immersed in right now with the mountains, the canyons, the range, the super bloom, this acres and acres of vineyards and produce, and I can't help but wonder all this sky and possibility that the bigger picture is we are here to live this big life, and we can't help but let all this impact us deeply. I do not take for granted what it took to manifest this memorial, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. So thank you, Team Celestis. I carry Jamie with me every day, and now a part of him will be above us as a celestial sign to never stop being astonished by the wonders and the spaces we embody. So everybody, please live long and prosper.
At every Celestis memorial service, we have a very special reading. And it means a lot to us. I think it's going to mean a lot to you. It's very appropriate. The reading is called You Want a Physicist to Speak at Your Funeral. It's written by Aaron Freeman, and we're going to show it on the videos now, read by a good friend of ours, John Donna.
You Want a Physicist to Speak at Your Funeral, a poem by Aaron Freeman. You want a physicist to speak at your funeral. You want the physicist to talk to your grieving family about the conservation of energy, so they will understand that your energy has not died. You want the physicist to remind your sobbing mother about the first law of thermodynamics, that no energy gets created in the universe and none is destroyed. You want your mother to know that all your energy, every vibration, every BTU of heat, every wave of every particle that was her beloved child remains with her in this world. You want the physicist to tell your weeping father that amid energies of the cosmos, you gave as good as you got. And at one point, you'd hope that the physicist would step down from the pulpit and walk to your broken-hearted spouse there in the pew and tell them that all the photons that ever bounced off your face, all the particles whose paths were interrupted by your smile, by the touch of your hair, hundreds of trillions of particles have raced off like children, their ways forever changed by you. And as your widow rocks in the arms of a loving family, may the physicist let them know that all the photons that bounced from you were gathered in the particle detectors that are their eyes. That those photons created within them constellations of electromagnetically charged neurons whose energy will go on forever. And the physicist will remind the congregation of how much of all our energy is given off as heat. There may be a few fanning themselves with their programs, as he says it. And he will tell them that the warmth that flowed through you in life is still here, still part of all that we are, even as we who mourn continue the heat of our own lives. And you'll want the physicist to explain to those who loved you that they need not have faith. Indeed, they should not have faith. Let them know that they can measure, that scientists have measured precisely the conservation of energy and found it accurate, verifiable, and consistent across space and time. You can hope your family will examine the evidence and satisfy themselves that the science is sound and that they'll be comforted to know your energy is still around. According to the law of the conservation of energy, not a bit of you is gone. You're just less orderly. Amen.
Our next family will be the family for Daniel Warren Benedict, followed by the family of Elizabeth Hill.
Hi, I'm Karen, and my husband, Daniel Warren Benedict, was an Air Force officer who spent 21 years of his life serving the United States Air Force until he retired in 2002. He then spent 19 years working for missile defense, tracking satellites and looking at radars and modeling systems for missile defense so that they could plan test flights for the missile tests so that we could demonstrate that it worked. 32 years ago, on March 8th, 1991, I was living in Los Angeles with him, his first assignment as an Air Force officer, and he was just a lieutenant. He launched the Titan IV missile. He was the lead engineer, and his whole team was celebrating. It was the K-5 mission. It launched 5 days early, and he was ecstatic that he launched from Vandenberg at the Slick 4, which is the same place we're going to be launching today. My therapist was the one that told me when I said his ashes sitting on the mantle just didn't seem right to me, that I needed to have some kind of memorial or something that honored him. And she said, "Do you know they launch ashes into space?" And I said, "No." And when I first Googled it, I found Celestis. And from that day on, I felt like I had found what I needed. And with all of you here celebrating today, I can't tell you how much it means to have this moment to honor Dan and his 40 years of service to his country, to space, and his memory. I know he would have loved this, and I found the best way to honor him. And I just know it's going to be a blast, and I look forward to it with everything in my heart. Thank you.
The family for Elizabeth Hill, followed by the family of Wheeling Cow.
So I'm John, Elizabeth's husband, and I'm here to tell a couple stories about her. First one is when she was born. She was named after her grandmother and her great aunt, Elizabeth Lee. They were actually, their names were Violet Elizabeth and Eula Lee. And so you can see she got the better part of that, Elizabeth Lee rather than Violet Eula. But her dad wasn't happy with the name. He took one look at that baby girl and said, "That's Ginger." So if you see up there, you'll notice that her name's there, but it says Ginger. And I'm here to tell you, she was the Ginger every single day of her 69 years. And fortunately for me, she chose to spend 48 of those years with me. Still can't believe she's gone. Anyway, you've heard lots of stories about people who wanted to be astronauts. Well, Jim didn't want to be an astronaut. That was me. I stood on a baseball diamond the tender age of 9 with my transistor radio listening to the shots of Alan Shepard and John Glenn and et cetera, and decided that I wanted to be an astronaut. Well, just like a lot of other stories you've heard here, I can't see anything with these eyes, so I could never qualify. I could never qualify. So I became an aerospace engineer instead, and she spent her entire life supporting my dream of that. But that wasn't the only dream that she supported. she was never satisfied. She was never content. There was always something better. There was always something out there. And she was the one who discovered Celestis. And when her time was near, she passed from ovarian cancer. She said, John, here's something for us to continue to do together. The thing that I didn't tell you is that we did everything together. We were hardly ever apart except when one of us traveled. And we windsurfed together. She was a huge NASCAR fan. Her father was an auto mechanic. Oh my God. We spent lots and lots of time in our camper in the infield at Daytona. I mean, she was something. And so she decided that this was one last thing that we could share. So not only is she going up today, but I'll be going with you guys sometime in the future. Thank you.
The family for Relaying Cow, followed by the family of Paul Beaudet.
Hi, good afternoon. Hui Liang Cao is my father, and my name is Peng Hua. He was a wonderful father and a respected engineer. He was born in Shanghai in 1936. He spent most of his time in Beijing, China. He passed away 3 years ago, almost at the same time my son, born in California. And 3 years ago, during the COVID-19 travel restriction, I can't see him off in China. But now I made it today. When my son look up the sky, I can tell him, Grandpa is on the orbit, and he's on a twinkle star. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The family for Paul Beaudet, followed by the family for Stephen James Toulouse.
Hi, my name is Kathy. I'm here to honor my son, Paul Beaudet. This is his Aunt Debbie. His wife and father and many aunts and uncles couldn't come today. First, I want to say thank you for having the bagpipes. We are of Scottish heritage, and what made it even more special is when he was playing, my son's picture was on the screen. Paul was my world, and we lost him way too soon, 7 months ago at the age of 49, from a massive heart attack. Paul was smart and a very humorous guy. He loved making art and music. Paul was obsessed with old music and was always looking for old albums from like Tony Bennett, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Perry Como, to name a few. When Paul was little, he loved Star Wars, and he had to have every figure there was. He also loved Star Trek, and I had to have every single color of shirt with the emblem on it for him to wear to school, different days. Soon I'll see my son leave this earth and go into space, which is what he always wanted to do. I'm so grateful Celestis was able to make this happen for Paul. See the universe, Paul. We love you so much.
The family for Stephen James Toulouse, followed by the family for Cheryl Masar.
It's good to see everybody. Can you hear me okay? Pretty good? We are here honoring my oldest brother, Stephen James Toulouse, and while this isn't something we necessarily talked about, final wishes and things, we lost him just after he turned 45 years old. So it's not something in your 40s you talk to your brother about final wishes. I'm going to take this opportunity to tell my other brother this. I want this, okay? But and I have to tell him that, as my loving wife kind of saw it as we're just banishing him from Earth. So I guess we can see it that way. But he and I always had lots of conversations about the dream of one day going into space, and so I know that he would love this. I know he'd be honored to be on this flight with your loved ones, preferably alive, but we'll take this one as well. But and we're honored to be here with all of you as well. So, thanks.
Thank you. Love the shirts, Toulouse family.
Thank you very much.
The family for Cheryl Masar, followed by the family for Ronald. We're done. Okay, I gotcha. The following family will be for Randall Arlonis Simpkins.
Hi, I'm Michael Lasar. I was Cheryl's husband for 33 years. She was a smart, beautiful, opinionated woman. Everybody would describe her as like one of a kind or a firecracker, that sort of thing. She was a lifelong nurse, and in her 40s she went back to school and got a master's degree in nursing, became a nurse practitioner. So science was a very big part of her life, and she didn't have, if any of our kids came home talking about new nutritional supplement fad or something like that, she would give them a hard time about that. So she liked science fiction as well. We've heard a lot of people like Star Trek and Star Wars and Interstellar and Armageddon. She loved all these movies, but she was into actual pure science as well, and kept reading books by Carl Sagan and Brian Greene and Stephen Hawking and people like that. She had a Meade LX10 telescope that she loved to get out, and this thing is like this big around and weighs around 40 pounds. So it was always me that had to get it out and set it up. So I would grumble, but it would make her happy. So we'd like to do that. She did talk for a long time, many years, about having her ashes shot into space. So we're super excited about being able to do this. And she did pass away in August of 2020. That was kind of the height of COVID, so it was hard to do a big production back then. But this is going to definitely make up for it. She, like in her last month, there was a comet in the news, and she kind of said that would be a great way to go out. And this is kind of as close as we can get to that. But anyway, we're looking forward to tonight, and we miss you, Cheryl, and we love you.
The family for Randall Arlonis Simpkins.
Wow, what incredible stories we've heard so far. Oh no. All right. My name is Taylor. I was Randy's daughter. Still am. This is my brother Ryan and my uncle Lynn and Juliet, my cousins, here today. My mom will be joining us a little bit later on. Dad would be so excited to be with all of you right now, and he would be asking every one of you more about the people that you're sending up on the launch, and he was just so curious about the world. You know, when we found out about Celestis, Ryan actually found Celestis, and Dad it was kind of the last, month, and things were really hard. And Ryan found Celestis, and he told Dad, and Dad kept saying, "No, you're pulling my leg. You're pulling my leg. This can't be real." And when he finally came around and understood that it was possible for him to go and fulfill his lifelong dream of going into space, like many of your loved ones, he was ecstatic. He just couldn't stop smiling and laughing, and just this joy came through him, and it was incredible, and it just gave me the chills thinking about that moment, because it's finally going to happen tonight. So I just want to tell you a little bit about my dad. He was incredible. He was an explorer at heart, and he was a scientist, like many of your family members as well. Dad worked as a physicist at both Jet Propulsion Laboratories and Ford Scientific. His research team at JPL developed some of the first conducting magnets that were used today in MRI machines. So he kind of has touched all of our lives in a way. He continued his physics research then at the Scripps Institute, and then he got really curious about the world, started exploring in a different way. So he started climbing. He did first ascent on many climbs around California. He joined ski patrol up in Mammoth and was working to help, with rescues and things like that. And then he started sailing. And in the 60s, he sailed from Newport Beach to Tahiti using just a sextant. And life was different back then. Uncle Lynn did a lot of the sailing with Dad. And, they didn't have refrigeration, and one of his favorite things in life is beer. So he invented a marine refrigeration unit, and that became his business for the rest of his life. That work allowed him to kind of settle down and be in one place, which was Newport Beach, and have all of us. So my brother Ryan and my brother Cody, who couldn't be here today, he found my mom, Kay, who's going to be joining us later, and they started exploring the world together. They had so many adventures all across the world. And they started watching a lot of SpaceX. Uncle Lynn and my dad, they never missed a launch. So he'll be very excited to be on board today. I had this whole script written out, but the main thing that I just want to share with you was Dad's kindness. He was kind to everyone, and he was always interested in everyone else. He told us that anything was possible. And he said, never say you can't do something. He was a type 1 diabetic, and he accomplished all this sailing around the world and invention and exploration. And he mentored a lot of diabetics with the same sense of adventure. So it wasn't even just us that he was inspiring, it was really everyone around him. So we're really excited today to send Dad on his own mission and journey into space, which was one of his lifelong dreams. And thank you so much. We'll see you up there, Dad.
violinist Helena McAlpine. Our next family is going to be for Robert Grant Phillips, the family of Robert Grant Phillips. Oh, okay. Oh, no, yes, I got you. Okay. Eric Anthony Gonzalez, the family of Eric Anthony Gonzalez, followed by the family of Maria Garcia.
Hello, my name is Tanya Sanchez. This is Tracy Gonzalez. My family and I are here today to honor our son, Eric Anthony Gonzalez. My son was a mere 25 when he left this earth, but I know he's with us here today and always in spirit. To tell you a little about my son, Eric loved adventure. Even as a child through to adulthood, he loved camping, fishing, hiking, and riding his motorcycle in our beautiful mountains of Colorado. That is where he was born and where he lived his entire life. Football was his sport of choice. He joined his first team when he was 6 years old. He played every chance he got from high school onto adulthood, joining a flag football team with his brothers. Although he was taken far too soon, he lived his life to the fullest. He was just beginning to find his way in this world. Eric had a vision for himself. So he worked and planned diligently to make a good life for himself, and that he did. And he certainly wasn't finished. My son was brave in facing adversities in life, fearless in fact. He moved forward from negativity without losing his ability to be blown away by things like being on a glass still lake with a million stars above him or catching the football for a touchdown. Eric was a kind man. He had a great heart for those in his life, family and friends. Although his brothers Aiden, Nate, Mare, and Stefano, and his sisters Amanda, Antonia, and Bree, along with many, many friends and extended family members, are not here today to join us. They will be home watching this wondrous event and to celebrate Eric's journey. Eric, my son, our brother, our friend. It's not goodbye, it's we'll see you later. I love you. I would like to thank Celestis for offering this opportunity to send my son off on his next journey and adventure. We're honored to be a part of this amazing experience. Thank you.
I'll just add one last thing is when our kids are young, they live through us. But when they become out of high school and stuff, we live through them. This will give us another way to help live through them. It gives us another avenue to actually look up into the stars and see him around us all the time. It's a blessing. Thank you. The family for Maria Garcia, followed by the family for Robert Weaver. So the family for Maria Garcia. Yeah.
Hi everybody, my name is David, my doctor is Leire. Today is a great moment for all. I would like to explain who Maria Jesus was, who my wife was, but sorry, my English is not good, and I would like to explain it in Spanish language. Sorry. Bueno. Y hace 19 meses que me has dejado, como que nos has dejado. Hemos ido cumpliendo desde que te conocí todos los objetivos que nos habíamos planteado, pero por desgracia nos tocó esa mortal enfermedad que es el cáncer y te fuiste. En este momento puedes estar tranquila por nosotros, que nosotros vamos a seguir adelante, que tendremos un gran futuro y que nuestro fantástico proyecto, que era nuestra hija Leire, va a ser fantástica, como has sido tú siempre. Quiero decirte que ya estoy viendo que es el final del duelo, de nuestro duelo, y que vamos a cumplir con tu último objetivo, que siempre ha sido ir a las estrellas. Esto es lo más cerca que te voy a dejar de las estrellas. Hemos venido de España solo para verte cómo viajas hacia allá, así que ten un buen viaje y cuando quiera hablar contigo, miraré arriba y sé que te veré sonreír. Thank you very much for all.
The family for Lynn Von Fumetti. And while they are en route, I just like to say one of the things that makes, one of the many things I think that makes Celestis special is we're not just a one country show. We're international. And today we have approximately, I think, 7 countries represented. China, Canada, we have a family from the Azores, which is part of Portugal, Mexico, Spain, United States, and Panama. Oh. The family for Julio and Robin Rivera will be up next.
Hi and good afternoon. I'm Dave Hornbacher. And for the last 2 decades, I've had the most amazing blessing in my life. It would be my wife and my partner, Lynn Von Fumetti, also known as Von by all of those that really knew her and just had such an amazing time with her. With me here is also Josiah, her son, and her daughter-in-law, Angie, so I really thank them for coming here, and there's certainly going to be a lot of people online tonight, you know, watching that space flight. So last year, several months before her unexpected passing, she and I were in the vehicle off for another little adventure, and we were talking about, well, what would you do if you won the lottery? And we both pretty much immediately said, well, we would go into space. And then we talked a little bit and said, well, what if it was just a small lottery? And so the first thing we decided is, well, then, Vaughn, you can go into space first. And so little did I know at that time that I would actually be here before you today to actually fulfill that wish and dream of hers. So I'm very proud and pleased to do that. And so with that, I just have a few things I want to share about Sweet Vaughn. So it is with immense joy that I will be with Vaughn as she ascends into the heavens aboard the spacecraft Excelsior. She is a part of our lives forever, soon to be passing above daily, and to return later to Earth as a shooting star. As so many that we're celebrating today, how exciting is that? On that remarkable evening, so far in the future, I'll be there loving her and wishing her joy and peace in the world and for myself to be with her again. Vaughn was very artistic and passionate in all her life's pursuits. There were no limits in her creativity or boxes that held her back. In grade school, she drew a cow and colored it blue, to which her teacher scolded, stating, "Cows were not supposed to be blue." From that moment on, Vaughn wondered, what if cows were blue and lived an adventurous life where everything was possible? And I imagine some of you have probably experienced what you might call signs or other blessings in your life or other things that start to make you think she's still with you, that your loved ones are still sort of acting and interacting and so forth. Even as I came here to the other day, as I'm driving down the highway, the first thing I see is on a sign. It says Vaughn's, so you probably have heard of that place, but there it is, Vaughn's, and I'm fumbling with my phone trying to get a picture and not, drive off the road. And then as we come into town, the city has a sign, and the sign says, the city of art and flowers. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, it's Vaughn. And I mentioned the blue cows, back in her young years. And not very far from our hotel, along an alleyway on a building, is a large mural of 4 blue cows. And so we saw that and stopped there and looked at it, and it was just, absolutely amazing to have that here and that presence here. And so certainly I think, if we're alert out there, we'll certainly see things that absolutely remind us of our loved ones. Vaughn also owned several businesses, and her steadfast love of art in all forms, she was also teaching, supporting local artists, and she also created in her studio her most vibrant piece of work, a multicolored cute bunny rabbit affectionately named Harvey. For those that you watch Jimmy Stewart movies, there's the name Harvey. And that rabbit quickly became a friend of the blue cow. In addition to art, she lived her passion for making a positive difference in the lives of others, and for personal growth. For a while, one of her positions was the director of fun and learning, and that was for an assisted care facility, and she hosted over 200 events a month to just help them in their living situation. She later in life, in 2010 through 12, returned to school, so sort of a late bloomer there, and she was awarded the Student Spirit Award by all her classmates. Many of her classmates have shared that Vaughn was an inspiration and helped them find their voice, no longer quiet or timid to share their beliefs or act on their values. That was one of her gifts to everyone else. To know Vaughn was to love Vaughn. She is truly the colors of the rainbow and is remembered for her kind and generous heart, for her love of people, the sense of adventure and talent to capture beauty, and for her unyielding support in our lives as we were blessed to be in hers. It is fitting that Vaughn will fly into the heavens, ever watchful in beauty over our lives. As we look to the heavens, she is twinkling back to us forever, as well as your loved ones. And I heard it once here earlier today, is that, tonight for me, it's not goodbye, but it's really till I'm able to see and be with you again. So I love you, Vaughn, and safe flight. Thank you.
The family for Julio and Robin Rivera, followed by the family of Zee and Pikachu Munt.
Jay and Robin are well represented. We have a grandson, we have a granddaughter, we have a sister, we have a daughter-in-law, and a sister and son for Jay and Julio, but we called him Jay. Jay was an engineer for 56 years. And I think he probably sent more things into space than anybody could have. And he loved his career. He was, I think one of the things that he loved just a little better than that was dancing. He was a great dancer. And I certainly appreciated that for 67 years. We danced our way through life. And then Robin was ill for quite a few years, and she passed in February, and he passed shortly after. And so they are together, and actually of my 3 children, she's a great one to be going with Dad, because she was like an engineer also. She was a pharmacist, but she just had that principled, disciplined outlook on life as he did. And it was wonderful. They got along so well with that. And so the 2 of them were they pursued many things. They loved family, travel. the arts, education. I think they collected degrees like some people collect stamps. They just kept going back to school and back to school. And then with all the launches that Jay was involved in, I always went. And this one time he said, well, look, after the launch, I will come out and get you and take you into the blockhouse so you can see what we do after the launch. I said, that's great, because I'd been there many times just to hear and see it go up. So the launch happened. I waited. I waited. I waited. And finally went back to the hotel. So this sheepish looking guy came later, and he wasn't used to going back out to get somebody to bring him in, so I excused him, and but he felt so bad about that. And let's see, I think sending the two of them into space, they both will be checking out the space, all the things that Jay has launched, enjoying everything they see, and missing this group. And we will miss him, both of them, so much. And I so appreciate being here and honoring them. Thank you.
The family for Zee and Pikachu month.
My name is Steve Mudd from Lake Oswego, Oregon. Well, I am here today to memorialize the lives of two remarkable cats, Zee and Pikachu. It is with great sadness that my oldest daughter cannot witness this historic launch. Janessa lost her life at the hands of evil just over 2 months ago. It is a result of an accidental drug overdose. Every day since has been a struggle, but I follow in the paw steps of these heroic cats who taught me not only how to bravely face adversity, but how to persevere and overcome. Our journey began in 2010 when my two daughters and I began a new life together. We were soon adopted by our first cat, Zee, who showered us with unconditional love and made our house a home. Several more cats would follow, including an orange kitten named Dublin, who Zee accepted as her own. The two were inseparable until we lost Dublin to a fatal virus in early 2012. When Zee saw my tears, she came to me, comforted me, and licked those tears from my face. But Zee's sadness was evident, and without Dublin, her zest for life took a turn for the worse. In early 2014, Zee suffered a health crisis. Emergency vets gave her a 5% chance of survival and recommended that she be euthanized. Fighting for her life and love, Zee was transferred to another hospital, just hours away from death, in need of a blood transfusion and possessing a rare blood type. A miracle cat arrived at the hospital to provide that needed blood. Zee survived, but diagnosed with advanced kidney disease, she remained on a collision course with certain death. After stabilization and discharge from the hospital, a specialist gave her 9 months to live. Under a compassionate use exception, Zee received experimental stem cell therapy, which partially reversed her kidney damage and placed her in clinical remission. But without Dublin, she was losing her will to live. Every good story needs a hero, and I now introduce Pikachu, an orange cat with a familiar soul. Pikachu showed up at our home when Zee needed him most. Zee took an immediate liking to him and knew exactly who he was. My two daughters adored me and begged me to adopt him. Believing he was a neighborhood stray, I said yes and put a call on him to let others know he now had a home. The next day, I received a phone call from a neighbor on the next block, wondering why their cat came home with a collar. We learned that Pikachu had another name, Nala, and had been found in a barn as a kitten a few months following Dublin's departure, when the young girl who found him eventually left for college. Nala scoured the neighborhood for love, in search of love, and found us. And thus began Pikachu's journey into our hearts and into the heavens. Pikachu chose to live with us, and after 2 years of traveling between homes, the nearby neighbor accepted that choice. Pikachu rekindled Zee's spirit and sparked dramatic improvements in her health. Zee remained in good health for years past her 9-month predicted survival and took to Twitter to share her story. Zee delighted over 20,000 Twitter followers with her intelligence, courage, wisdom, and love. These followers experienced not only Zee's journey, but of Pikachu's as well. In early 2018, Pikachu was diagnosed with diabetes, and over the next 12 months fought a valiant battle against complications from this disease. 4 days following a week-long hospitalization for pancreatitis, additional complications developed, and Pikachu became our guardian angel, and thus resumed a slow decline in Zee's health. Over the next 2 years, Zee reached the point where she would require a kidney transplant for long-term survival. We arranged for this transplant to take place at the University of Pennsylvania and searched for a donor possessing Zee's rare blood type. The donor would share a life-saving kidney and be provided with a loving forever home. We identified a compatible donor in late 2021 who today remains a loving member of our family. But before the kidney transplant could be scheduled, Zee went into a rapid decline and was hospitalized for dialysis treatments intended to carry her through to transplant. After 7 years of extended life, made possible through Pikachu and an incredible team of professionals who gave Zee their all, another guardian angel was born. Before I conclude, I would like to take a moment to thank Amy, the now young woman who found Nala in that barn, nurtured him, and installed in him her love. Please know that as Pikachu, while you were in college, he was loved, added great joy to my family, and gave Zee extra years of quality life. For that, I am forever grateful. Zee and Pikachu will never be forgotten, nor will my departed daughter, Janessa, who is incredible in her own right. She spread joy to the world through her origami, published 4 books of original designs, and was working on a 5th during her 27-year life cut short. For Janessa and all the sons and daughters on this planet, today I declare war on evil. A war without weapons of destruction, but armed with the universal and limitless nuclear power of love. On behalf of all who have helped make this day possible, I gift to humanity Zee and Pikachu as guardian angels of the earth who will orbit this globe and shower the world with love. When you look to the heavens, whether through light or darkness, you'll know we are all being watched over by a greater good. It is my sincere hope that you and your loved ones will proudly join in this mission. From the stars came Zee and Pikachu, serving unconditional love on earth. To the stars we send Excelsior, the temple of our crusade, serving unconditional love upon this earth.
If we have any other families that haven't yet spoke but would like to speak, now will be your opportunity. Please come forward.
Thank Good afternoon. I'm Dave Clark, and I have the honor to share some moments in one of my good friends' lives, Daryl Ford, Kathy, his wife. Thank you very, very much for this honor. I think I was chosen for this because I could ad-lib, but I've got to stay with the script, so pardon me if I read this, so I'll get lost in emotion. Daryl was born in 1941 in Oklahoma, just as the Dust Bowl era ended and World War II started. Growing up, he worked on his sister's ranch, just like a real cowboy. And during this time, he said that he learned two things. First, the value of hard work, and second, that he didn't want to stay on a ranch and be a cowboy. He started college at Oklahoma State University, where he played football on the freshman team. Later, coming to California, he earned a degree as an aeronautical engineer and also got a master's in business. He enlisted in the Air Force in 1965 and served in Vietnam. He also, at the end of that tour, served missions with the Ravens Group as a forward fire control for the CIA that we aren't supposed to know about or talk about. Leaving the Air Force, he became a private pilot. He was an instructor. And he went to work for McDonnell Douglas, as well as then Boeing later in his career. He was a pilot for Continental, where he picked up the pretty girl on my left. His beautiful bride, I think, is what he would always say. Daryl was a total package. Very handsome man, brilliant, funny, modest. You know, at a time when America seems to be valuing people that brag about themselves or that disparage other people, he's someone that never bragged about himself, despite all of his talents and accomplishments. Really a man for his time. Daryl was a nice man at a time that I don't think niceness is appreciated as much as it should. He was someone that was always quick to make people smile or laugh or feel welcome. You know, he went to work at McDonnell Douglas, and a couple of the tasks that he had were interesting to all of us. That he helped design 747s for the Saudi family, the royal family. And he said the hard thing about that task was that you had to offset the weight that was in every solid gold ornament on the plane so that the stupid thing would get off the ground. And he said that could be difficult at times because they were so ostentatious. He also was the person who designed the minibar upstairs on the 747, so you're welcome. Okay. And he ended his career there as vice president of sales. He also worked for Hawaiian Air in designing aircraft and did some work remodeling some of the planes that they had. He enjoyed golf and frequent trips to the casino, where his wife was the master, and they used to call that going to the office, and they had a lot of fun there. Now, despite all of the wonderful things he did in his career, I've saved the most important for last, in that his family was his total and true joy. Happily married for 45 years to his lovely wife, Kathy. They had a wonderful son, Ryan, that can't be here today. He's in Spain and couldn't make it back. He's an actor. On occasion you might see him. He was a very handsome man. He has a beautiful wife, Lillian, who, I guess she's not a stewardess. She's a flight attendant. They don't have stewardesses anymore. A flight attendant. And two beautiful, gorgeous grandkids, Victoria and Riley. They were absolutely the apples of his eye the last few years of his life. You know, my wife, Kathy, and I met the Fords when our children were in elementary school together. And we were so fortunate to be in a neighborhood that we all did everything together. And not just when the kids were in school, but later in life, we all became traveling companions again. And we saw the world together, led by the Fords because of their international experience. close with two things. First of all, I know he would be very excited to be making this adventure into space with such a star-studded crew to accompany him. It's really touching stories, exciting things. Your families are wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And lastly, as leaders, the Fords told us all about the world, and now he's leading us in a new direction, off into space. And his granddaughter Victoria probably said it best, saying, looking at the heavens, she said, "Papa, you're one with the stars." Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other families that haven't spoke yet that would like to speak? Oh, you're right behind me. Perfect.
Hi. I want everybody to hear because I had trouble back there. Can you hear? Okay. My name is Marcella Schmidt. I'm here because of my daughter, Lori Karma. With me are her father, her two sisters, one of her three nephews, one of her two nieces. Two more family members will be joining us tonight at the launch. I just sat and listened to all of your wonderful stories, and I decided that I better tell you that they're in for a heck of a ride because our daughter Lori is one of their companions, and she is funny, devilish, and she's gonna make it a fun ride. Lori fought a 5-year losing battle with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. April 1st, which was the original launch date, would have been her 59th birthday. She loved the fact that she was born on April Fool's Day because she was always pulling stunts. The first one being when she was born, I was convinced I was having a boy. And she was always late. She was born 2 weeks late. She missed the sign-up date for the launch with Celestis 2 days before it left. When Lori was nearing the end, the only part of her body that she could use was her eyes. She couldn't move anything. She couldn't walk, she couldn't talk. But she communicated to us through a device called Toby. It's like a tablet, and it had an eye gaze tracker, and she would stare at a keyboard and type out her message, and then the Toby would read it aloud to us. She hated it when we looked over her shoulder and we butted in because we knew what she was trying to say, but she wanted us to wait until she was done. But she called the whole family into the bedroom one day and said, "I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is I'm going to Mars. The bad news is I've learned that the spaceship only has enough fuel for a one-way trip. I've been told that there are windows on the spaceship, so I'll still be able to see you everywhere except in bedrooms and bathrooms. When I get there, I will be my old self. I will be walking and talking. I'll have my hair done and my makeup on, and I'll be dancing with little green men." When we went to make her funeral arrangements, she donated her body to science, and then the body was cremated. When we went to the funeral home, we learned about all of these packages for launches with Celestis, And we all broke out laughing and looked at each other and said, oh yeah, we gotta do this. And the two ladies, the employees at the funeral home, were in shock, and they said that was the first time they'd ever had a session like that with laughter. But that's what Lori would have liked. I'm going to turn it over now to her sister. This was totally impromptu. We weren't going to do it.
Lori liked to talk a lot, so be grateful you got us and not her, and I'm sorry for all of your loved ones. But she was the kind of sister that could tell you there's a right way and a wrong way to make mac and cheese. Who knew? But she was also the first person there to help out with your kids, and she never had any of her own, and she was very involved in their lives and there to comfort us and help us whenever we needed it. So she was the best sister, along with this one, that you could ask for. So we love you, Lori. Anybody else? Probably.
Briefly, before Lori passed, she ordered something like a dozen of these rockets, and I don't know this.
4 days before she passed, she went online, like she could do, and ordered 17, actually, of these sterling silver rockets. And then she sent me an email and told me who to give them to. So.
Okay. Do I have any other families that haven't spoke yet they would like to speak? Okay. We're running about 15 minutes ahead. Before we break, I'd like to thank our team at Celestis. Putting this event together is no small feat, and the expectation is to provide you an absolute perfect memorial service. And so the team comes together and they do that, and I'd just like to invite my team up. Myrna, my wife, this is her first memorial service, and it'll be her first launch. Keith is behind the monitor over. He's running all of the audio, video. Christiana is where's Christiana? So for those of you who didn't book your memorial spaceflight through a funeral home, you are probably very, very well acquainted with Christiana Scholl. I think she might be out running around. There she is, Christiana. Christiana, come in here. But thank you, Christiana. Faith is the newest member of our team. Go and stand up, Faith. So Faith is our new client services representative. So many of you have probably talked to her in coordinating this event. And last but not least, our co-founder and our CEO, Charlie Chafer. Just thank you for your mentorship. Big shoes to fill. Honored to be here, and really blessed to be here. And just want to say, meeting you is a joy. It is one of the great things about this job. If I haven't met you yet, please try to find me at the reception or at the launch tonight. But yeah, please come say hi. It is just an absolute delight to shake your hand, see your face, put your face to your loved one, and just, you make it really worthwhile. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. So we're going to take a break now. Like I said, we're running about 15 minutes early. We're going to take a break. We'll stick with the 15 minutes, and we'll come back at 3 o'clock. I've talked to the Babcock Winery. We've moved up the food from 4 o'clock to 3:45, so everything is under control. And I'd also like to give a big shout-out to the Babcock Winery because they have been just fantastic. So we'll take a break. We'll come back for the pre-launch briefing at 3 p.m.
Let's see where the kiddos are.
It's okay, don't worry about it. Don't take twice.
Just gonna run it through when people are reading. Might as well do a little B-roll.
I know.
It's okay, you're all good.
You had a friend at work. A friend at work that oh. So that's what this is, right?
Yeah.
When it's not organized anymore, it's entropy, right?
Hello. Please don't wander too far. The pre-launch briefing has got some important stuff, including some very fun surprise news. So when we come out to get you to come back in,